Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we're starting a lecture on Caitanya Charitamrita. We're starting with chapter 3, which is entitled External Reasons for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Appearance. And I will also share my screen because I'm recording this through Zoom so that you can have the text in front of you. Just a second. So share screen. Yep, here it is. I thought it would be much easier if you can follow than what I'm talking about. Maybe you didn't have the opportunity to read. The perfect thing is that you read before we start a new chapter so that we can, that you can ask actually questions and then that there can be some kind of discussion if that's possible. It's not so much possible because I'm online and you're there, and I hope you will be able to at least post your questions or comments on Facebook, and then I will be able to read them and answer if needed. So before we start, we will sing a prayer for auspiciousness. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So this is a prayer that is always sang before we discuss Caitanya Charitamrita. It glorifies Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates and all the devotees of the Lord. So today we are going to discuss why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world. As we mentioned when we were speaking on chapter 1, there are external reasons for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, and there are internal reasons for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. So this time we will discuss the external ones. And we will go through some of the verses. It's very easy to go through the verses of this chapter just because there is no elaborate purports from Srila Prabhupada, because everything is very nicely explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So in front of me I have Harikatha. He's my only audience here. So we will start with verse 1. And before we start, I would just like to say that actually this whole chapter is an explanation of the verse in chapter 1 of Adi Lila, and we will read it because it will be mentioned here in this chapter. But as always, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he starts his explanations by offering obeisances. So it's like an etiquette or a way of good behavior, or how to make your whatever you speak auspicious is when you offer obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, spiritual masters, and so on. So he says, I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By the potency of the shelter of his lotus feet, even a fool can collect the valuable jewels of conclusive truth from the minds of the revealed scriptures. So what we need when we speak about God is to have his mercy, because not all can speak about something that's beneficial to everyone. So if we take shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he will empower us so that we can actually collect the jewels from the minds of the revealed scriptures. And you will see that in all the chapters, whenever Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, whenever he explains something about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's quoting the verses from the revealed scriptures, because the verses are an authority for us. It's like in law. Like if you want to plead a case, or if you want to make an argument, you have to make an argument according to the law or to some case law. So this case law or law that is made by the government or by the court is an authority on something. And by this authority, your argument is very valid. So in the same sense, when you speak something about God, you have to make your arguments according to the revealed scriptures. So verse 2. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Lord Nityananda, and all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So this is the verse that we sang. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda. So he also always starts most of the chapters like this. Verse 3. So now he explains how in chapter 2 he gave a purport to the third verse of Adi Lila in chapter 1, and now he wants us to listen to the meaning of the fourth verse, and this is the fourth verse that he will. So this fourth verse of Adi Lila, it's mentioned in Adi Lila chapter 1 verse 4. It's also quoted here. So may the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost core of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has descended in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. So this quotation is from Vidaga Madhava, a drama compiled and edited by Srila Rupa Goswami. So this verse also speaks about which are the external reasons for the appearance of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and there are three of them. The first reason why he appeared is that he wanted to inaugurate the Yuga Dharma of Kali Yuga, Nama Sankirtan. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that Lord Krishna appears to save the sadhus, to eliminate the demons, and to establish the principles of religion. So the principle of the religion in the age of Kali is chanting of the holy names. So he comes in the age of Kali to establish this religious principle, and this religious principle is called Nama Sankirtan, so congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And it will be explained why he's the one who has to come. So the second reason why he comes, so the first reason is to establish the religious principles for the Kali Yuga, which is the chanting of the holy name. And by doing so, he will bestow Prema Bhakti or Vraja Prema. And we will also speak about that. And the third reason is to fulfill Advaita Acharya's appeal. Usually, the reason why Lord Krishna appears in the material world is to fulfill the desires of his devotees. And we will see what kind of a devotee Lord Advaita Acharya is. Okay. So while I'm speaking to you, I'm also using this nice book, which is called Caitanya Subodhini. So here it's very nice because it systematically follows Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it gives the most prominent arguments from the chapter, and it's very easy to explain according to this to others. So this book says that verses from 5 to 13 explain Krishna's appearance on earth. So in order to actually explain all these three external reasons, and also to confirm the second chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have to start from Krishna. In chapter 2, we were speaking how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is non-different from Lord Krishna. So if he's non-different from Lord Krishna, therefore Lord Krishna is the one who appeared in this form, and he appeared for a certain reason. So what this verses will explain is how it happened. So Lord Krishna, the son of King Raja, is the Supreme Lord. And we know from second chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita that this Supreme Lord is also Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He eternally enjoys transcendental pastimes in his eternal abode, Loka, which includes Rajadama. So this Raja Prema that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestows, it comes from the spiritual world, from the Golokadama. And it's part of eternal pastimes of the Lord, which the Lord performs in the spiritual world. But while we are here in this material world, we cannot see them. So they are covered. So it's called aprakata Lila, which means that it's a hidden Lila, not visible to us. But then the Lord decides to reveal his Lilas to us. And then it is said that once in a day of Brahma, he descends to this world to manifest his transcendental pastimes. So this is very important, just to emphasize how rare it is that Lord Krishna comes. And it will be explained that the estimation of time that is needed for Krishna to appear. So the verse says, we know that there are 4 yugas, namely Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. These 4 together constitute one Divya Yuga. So we know that now we are living in the age of Kali. And this age of Kali lasts for, 400 or something thousand years, right? And Dwapara Yuga was even longer, and Treta was even longer, and Satya was even longer. So you can see the time span of these yugas is very long. And so if we calculate all these yugas, 4 of them constitute one Divya Yuga. And then 71 of these Divya Yugas, so these 4 ages.
4 cycles.
4 cycles. Как скажи, puta.
4 times.
Yeah, no.
5 times 4.
71 times. Anyway, 71 Divya Yuga constitutes one Manvantara. And there are 14 Manvantaras in one day of Brahma. So these Manvantaras, they are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So there are 10 topics which Srimad Bhagavatam deals with. And one of the topics is Manvantaresha, Anukatha. So Manvantaresha means that it deals with the periods of Manvantaras. And there are 14 Manvantaras in one day of Brahma. And Manvantaras are actually, as it was explained in our lectures on Srimad Bhagavatam, they're like prime ministers of the universe. So the government is consistent of a prime minister who is Manvanta, one Manu. They all have their names. And his ministers are, for instance, demigods. And he is the one who establishes the laws in the material world. And the purpose of the laws that he establishes in the material world is for the living entities to return home back to Godhead. So he establishes actually through the laws the principles of religion, which everyone should follow to elevate themselves. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that the Manvantara is the period controlled by one Manu. So the present Manu, who is the 7th, is called Vaivasvata, the son of Vivasvana. 27 Divya Yugas of his age have now passed. So, this information speaks to us how Vedas know everything, how all the informations are there, and how they talk very precisely about the past, the present, and the future. How it is very precisely established when Krishna appears, and how actually you can calculate all this, and how we know the names of all the Manus that will appear, that appeared, that are now, and that will appear in the future. So Srila Prabhupada names them in the purport. He says that one name of the first Manu is named Swayambhuva Manu. Then the second one is named Swarochisha Manu, Uttama Manu, Tamasa Manu, Raivata Manu, Chakshusha Manu, Vaisvata Manu, which is the current Manu, Savarni Manu, Daksha Savarni Manu, Brahma Samarni Manu, Dharma Savarni Manu, Rudraputra Manu, Rauchya Manu or Deva Savarni Manu, and Bhautyaka or Indra Savarni Manu. But this is just like when we get this information from the scriptures, they tell us like how small we are. We think we're very important in this world, but our lifespan is maximum 100 years old. And I don't know, we're just like a tiny little piece of dust on this planet in this one city. For instance, now I'm just one of the jivas on an island in Croatia, on Zlarin, in a country which is called Croatia, in a continent which is called Europe, in a planet which is called Earth, and in a universe which has so many planets, and there are so many universes in this material world. So I am so small, but I think I'm very important. So this is actually to minimize our ego in a way, to get this information that we are actually not so important as we think we are, even though we are important, but not in this false ego image that we have of ourselves. That's one thing that this verse talks about. And the second thing that this verse talks about is how rare it is that Lord Krishna appears. So we have to wait for so long. That's one thing. And the second thing is, in this argument, that how lucky we are that actually we have this information about Lord Krishna, and that we have this information about Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who is actually giving us the highest love that exists in the spiritual world, which is Vraja Prema. So the verse goes, at the end of Dvapara Yuga, of the 28th Divya Yuga, Lord Krishna appears on earth with the full paraphernalia of his eternal Rajadhana. So Krishna then comes. We know that that was like approximately 5,000 years ago that he appeared on this earth. And so this is the moment in which he appeared in a day of Brahma. So we would have to wait for a lot of time that the day of Brahma actually ends, and then the span of the day is also the span of the night, and then we'll have to wait all the night of the Brahma while actually being living entities in unmanifest state, and then waiting for the awakening of Brahma, and then again some certain period of time when Krishna appears again. So actually it's a really, really long time. And it says that my connection is unstable, so I hope you will be able to still follow me. But if that's not, if something is not working, please just write a message on Facebook. All these informations are very nice because, you know, that Srila Prabhupada, he had an exalted spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he was so intelligent that he was very knowledgeable in astrology and mathematics and in the Shastras. So he composed a book where he explained in details and calculated in details all these yugas, ages, and exact moment when Krishna appeared. So it's also quite fascinating. And then it is said in the verse how it is very, very special that Lord Krishna appears, because by manifesting his Lilas, so he's showing us what he's doing in the spiritual world. For the first time, actually, we can really see the relationships that the devotees can have with the Lord. And therefore, he shows servitude, dasya, friendship, sakya, parental affection, vatsalya, and conjugal love, shringara. So these are the 4 transcendental mellow rasas. And only if we cherish this kind of rasas with the Supreme Lord can the Lord be subdued. And we don't want to subdue God because we want to control him. We are actually seeking for an exchange in the relationship of friendship, in the relationship of parental love, and even in the relationship of servitude can only come if someone subdues himself to the person with whom he has a relationship, because only by subduing himself or herself, he can show affection, because he eliminates the position on which he is, and he wants to be controlled out of love and affection by this person. And also what Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, that the devotees, especially in this Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya that we are speaking from, so the devotees in Bhakti Yoga, they don't actually think about the neutral rasa with the Lord, even though this is the fifth rasa that actually exists between the Lord and the spirit souls. So Srila Prabhupada says that Shantarasa, or the neutral stage, is not mentioned in this verse, because although in Shantarasa one considers the absolute truth, the sublime great, one does not go beyond that conception. So there is no relationship. And even like I was attending a seminar on Nectar of Devotion, where we in details were trying to discuss all the rasas that Krishna has with his devotees. And when we tried to discuss the Shantarasa, or the neutral stage in which the devotees can be in their relationship with Krishna, it was very, very weird for us to discuss it, because it is in our nature and we are taught that we should perform service, we should offer service even to the devotees, to the Lord. So in Shantarasa, actually, there is no service, no activity, there is only appreciation of the Lord. So in that sense, that's weird for us. So we, even if we are like very, very at the beginning of Bhakti Yoga, we will not go in that direction. It will be unnatural for us, because we like to offer services, and through the service and through the activity, we actually show the love and appreciation towards the Lord and the devotees. So this is our mood. And this is the mood of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and this is the mood of Lord Krishna himself as well. So absorbed in such transcendental love, Lord Krishna enjoys in Vraja with his devoted servants, friends, parents, and conjugal lovers. So this is where he just explains how the Lord shows all of this. And it is said that Lord Krishna enjoys his transcendental pastimes as long as he wishes, and then he disappears. After disappearing, however, he thinks thus. So this is the point, what Krishna Kaviraj Goswami wants to make, that he does all this, but then he decides something, which refers to the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what Krishna thinks when he leaves is that, for a long time, I have not bestowed unalloyed loving service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachment, the existence of the material world is useless. Everywhere in the world, people worship me according to scriptural injunctions, but simply by following such regulative principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees of Rajabhumi. So what he is actually saying is that he's trying to explain that there are two types of bhakti. There is Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti means that we perform services towards the Lord by following the rules and regulations of the scriptures. And Raganuga Bhakti means that we offer the Lord service on a spontaneous level, because it's quite natural for us. We don't need rules and regulations to love Krishna or to do something for Krishna. It just comes from the heart. So this spontaneous Raganuga Bhakti is part of Vraja Bhakti, and it's not so easy to obtain. It's actually very difficult to obtain, and especially it's not, the opportunity to obtain it is not given in other ages so much. So that's why Krishna says that I didn't give this opportunity to the world to worship me in this way, because by following the regulative principles, one cannot attain Rajabhumi. One can only attain Vaikuntha Lokas. So he says, knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration, but devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. So basically, Krishna is so kind that he accepts all the service that anyone wants to give to him. But he's not so attracted when people approach him with awe and veneration, even though he accepts it and he's very kind and he reciprocates. but he's more attracted to spontaneous devotional service in which the devotee with whom he has a relationship with doesn't know that he's God. So that's like the specific nature of Raja Prema, is that the devotees who are there in the spiritual world, they don't have any knowledge that Krishna is God. So it's quite interesting, and it's quite contradictory actually, because first, when we start with Bhakti Yoga and with devotional service, we have to get to know Krishna so that we actually know to whom we render our service, and we want to get to know him so that we can actually establish a relationship with him and to see why Krishna is so attractive. But all the time when we get to know him, we have this notion and knowledge that he's God. But in the end, in the perfection of Bhakti Yoga, we have to forget that. And we have to actually just think of Krishna as a friend, or Krishna as a lover, or Krishna as a child, or whomever, in that relationship of where there is no awe and reverence. So this is something that attracts Krishna, and this is something that subdues Krishna. And for example, you can see that in the relationship that Krishna had with Arjuna. So we know, if we read a little bit about Bhagavad Gita, we know that before the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, Arjuna and Krishna were very good. I mean, they are still always friends, but they were very good friends in the sense that Arjuna was not thinking about Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he was making jokes with Krishna, he was spending time with Krishna, he was very intimate with Krishna, he was teasing him, I guess, and doing all the things that friends do between themselves. But when Bhagavad Gita was spoken, and when Krishna manifested his universal form, that was the moment where awe and reverence appeared in Arjuna's heart. And he was totally terrified, and he even apologized to Lord Krishna, like, I'm sorry that I called you a friend. I'm sorry that I treated you in this way, that way, because you're the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the end, Lord Krishna pacified Arjuna, and he showed his two-armed form in which Arjuna feels most comfortable to see him. And when he saw that form through time, Arjuna also subdued this awe and reverence. But it's just like at that moment, the relishment of the relationship that they had was no longer possible, because Lord Krishna appeared in his universal form, which was so frightening for Arjuna that he couldn't exchange the relationship of friendship, which actually Lord Krishna wants to have with Arjuna. So therefore, with his energy, he also bewilders jivas. So he put Arjuna in a state of mind after the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, in which Arjuna could then again start treating him as a friend. So this is what actually attracts him, not this awe and reverence. And we know that in Vaikuntha Lokas, Lord Krishna is worshipped like a king, and everyone is his servant. And it's quite also interesting to note that Srila Prabhupada, when he came, he first started everything with chanting of the holy names. So the Yuga Dharma, the religious principle of this age, sorry for the noise, but I'm at the terrace, so there are some kids here. So the religious principle for this age is chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And this is what Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach, and he brought this to the world. And this chanting of the holy names of the Lord, it gives Raja Prema, not following the rules and regulations strictly as in worship of the deity, which was a religious principle that was observed in Dvapara Yuga. So every yuga has its own way of performing religious principles. But still, Srila Prabhupada established temples in Kali Yuga because he wanted to help us. I mean, the deity worship helps us to become stable in Sattva Guna, and it actually helps us to chant better. But actually, the deity worship, the temple worship, is not the religious principle of this age. And we also know that in the temple, the Lord is worshipped as Lord Narayan. and the Lord Narayan is situated in Vaikuntha Lokas, and therefore the deity in the temple is actually worshipped like a king, and we are all his servants, and there is certain awe and reverence. So basically, only through the chanting of the holy names we can overcome that. We can try to see Krishna through the mellows of the relationships that he has in Brajabhumi. The deity worship can help us, but there has to be chanting all the way through. So I find that quite interesting, and just wanted to mention it. So Krishna says that by performing such regulated devotional service in awe and veneration, one may go to Vaikuntha and attain the 4 kinds of liberation. So he then mentions which are the 4 kinds of liberations that can be obtained in Vaikunthas. So these liberations are oh my God. Okay, sorry about that. But my husband, he just had an accident, but he's okay. Yeah, okay. So liberations which are obtained in Vaikuntha Lokas are Sarshti, which means achieving opulences equal to those of the Lord. Sarupya, having a form the same as the Lord. Samipya, living as a personal associate of the Lord. And Salokya, living on the Vaikuntha planet. Devotees never accept Sayuja, however, since that is the oneness with Brahman. So it is important to note that there are 5 kinds of liberations that are available in the spiritual world. 4 can be found in the Vaikunthas, and the 5th can be found in Brahmajyoti, because it means that we merge into the energy of the Lord, we become one with Brahman. But this is something that the devotees who are performing Bhakti Yoga, they don't want to merge as one to the Lord. They want to have a relationship with him. And therefore, in order to have a relationship with the Lord, they live on the same planet as the Lord. Anyway, even though that they have all these 4 liberations, and even though it is said and explained by Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas that they actually don't want this liberation, they don't care about it, they anyway attain it. It is mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion that one who performs devotional service, liberation is just like following him behind his back. I mean, he doesn't have to worry about liberation. It will automatically come just by performing bhakti. And it will also automatically come because in order to be with the Lord, we attain the same, similar form as the Lord. And we live on the same planet as the Lord. And we live as a personal associate of the Lord. So these all liberations are there. And all of the associates of the Lord, they have the equal opulence as the Lord, not only in Vaikunthas, but also in Krishna Loka. And this is something that I found very interesting. And it's mentioned in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is a book that was written by Sanatana Goswami. And I was listening to lectures of my spiritual master, His Holiness Niranjana Swami. He's giving lectures on Brihad Bhagavatamrita for the last 2 years. So there was a section in which it was explained how we will get the form we will get a certain spiritual form in the spiritual world according to our meditation. So if someone worships Vishnu, who has 4 hands, he will obtain the form exact as Lord Vishnu, and he will go to Vaikuntha Lokas. If someone meditates on the form of Lord Krishna as a cowherd boy, he will attain the form of a cowherd boy on Golokadam. And for example, what was also interesting is that if someone meditates on Srimati Radharani, who is the highest gopi in the spiritual world, he will also obtain the form of a gopi. So these are really some interesting things that on what we meditate, that is what we become. And this is confirmed by Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So Krishna says further, I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the age, Namasankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name. I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing the four mellows of loving devotional service. So it is the desire of the Lord Krishna, to come as Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, to induce everyone to chant the holy name of the Lord and to make everyone dance in ecstasy. And we will see how he will do that. It's very nicely explained. He says that he shall accept the role of a devotee and he shall teach devotional service by practicing it himself. So first we come to understand that Lord Krishna will appear as a devotee. So Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was here and propagating the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, he took a role of a devotee. So that's why he is considered a hidden incarnation, because the fact that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead is hidden from everyone. You can just see him as a worshiper of the Lord in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And he says that I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. So that's a very important principle. This is the principle of an acharya. Acharya means the one who teaches by example. So the Lord is the one who teaches by example as well. And he is the only one who can authorize us to actually perform devotional service. And he says this here: unless one practices devotional service himself, he cannot teach it to others. This conclusion is indeed confirmed throughout the Gita and Bhagavatam. There is also a nice example that a lot of preachers explain, and that is that once a lady, she had a son who was eating too much sweets, and she wanted a sadhu to tell her son to stop eating sweets. So she came with her son to the sadhu, and she asked him, can you please tell my son to stop eating sweets? And the sadhu said, okay, I will, but you have to come in, 7 days. And she said, okay, I will come in 7 days. And then 7 days passed, she returned, and she said, okay, now we have returned. Can you please teach my son to stop eating sweets? And then he just turned to her son and he said to him, you should not eat sweets. And then she was totally confused, like, but why did you say it to him now? Why couldn't you say it to him like a week ago? And then he said, because then I was still eating sweets and now I'm not eating sweets. And now I can tell him that he should stop eating sweets. So you can see that this is the principle, that first we have to, if we want to teach someone something, or if we even want to instruct someone on something, first we have to practice this ourselves. And now Krishna, he explains what he spoke in the Bhagavad Gita. The following verses are the verses from the Bhagavad Gita. He says, whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. And this is like the principle how Krishna appears in his various incarnations in the material world. The second verse is that to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So basically, what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is trying to prove here is that Lord Chaitanya appeared according to the statements of the Bhagavad Gita, in which Krishna explains himself why he appears and how he appears. So, and he emphasized that to deliver the pious actually means that he comes because his devotees who are here in the material world, they desire for him to come. An example of such a pious devotee in this case is Advaita Acharya, by whose appeal he appeared in this world. When he came as Lord Krishna, for instance, the demigods, they were the ones who were appealing Lord Brahma to go to the milk ocean to call for Krishna to appear in this world. So these are the pious, and he wants to deliver them in a way. But this deliverance of the pious, sadhunam, refers to the devotees, and the sadhus, they don't have to be liberated or delivered because they already are delivered. In this, what actually the verse is trying to emphasize is that Krishna fulfills the desires of his devotees, and therefore he appears to them to give them pleasure. And then he appears to annihilate the miscreants. When he appeared as Lord Krishna, the demigods pleaded Krishna to come so he can eliminate the burden of the earth, so he can eliminate the demons who are just creating disturbances on the earth. So he came and he was fighting the demons. He was killing the demons, and by killing the demons, he was eliminating the burden of the earth. And he was reestablishing the principles of religion by his example. And that's how he appears. So in the same way, very similarly, he appeared as Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. It will be described in the next verses how Lord Krishna appears. I mean, all the incarnations appear with various weapons, because the role of the incarnation is actually to eliminate the demons. But as Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he also comes with weapons, but his weapons are a little bit different. His weapons are consistent of his angas and upangas. Angas means his plenary portions that appeared here on this earth, like for instance, incarnation of Lord Narayana appeared as Lord Advaita Acharya. Lord Balaram is also his expansion and appeared as Lord Nityananda. So these are the angas, and upangas are his devotees. So all the propagators of actually Sankirtan movement can be called upangas. So these are the weapons of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, because he sends them all over the world to propagate the chanting of the holy name. And by propagating the chanting of the holy name, this chanting of the holy name actually eliminates from the heart of the people in the Kali Yuga their demoniac propensities. It cleans their heart. So in this way, Lord Chaitanya fights in Kali Yuga, and he reestablishes the principle of religion, which is the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Then Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, if I did not show the proper principles of religion, all these worlds would fall into ruin. I would be the cause of unwanted population and would spoil all these living beings. So basically, he's just saying how it's very important that he teaches by example, because whatever a great man does, the common people follow, which is said in this verse. And whatever standards he sets by his exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So it is known that when Lord Krishna appeared in this material world, he was performing all his religious duties. He woke up for Mangalarati, he was chanting, he was performing his duties as administrator of Dwaraka, and so on. He says that my plenary portions can establish the principles of religion for each age. No one but me, however, can bestow a kind of loving service performed by the residents of Raja. So Krishna himself personally can only come and give us Raja Prem. So that's why it is very important to understand that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself, because only Lord Krishna himself, as the cause of all causes, the sum bonum of everything, the origin of everything, the origin of all incarnations, the one who is in Krishna Loka, Golokadam, he's the only one who can bestow Raja Prem. And then again, Krishna Das Kaviraj just repeats, there may be many, all auspicious incarnations of the personality of Godhead, but who other than Lord Shri Krishna can bestow love of God upon the surrendered souls? This is just a quotation from the verse, just to make a point how this is so, this is truth. Therefore, in the company of my devotees, I shall appear on earth and perform various colorful pastimes. Thinking thus, the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna himself descended at Nadia early in the age of Kali. Thus, the lion-like Lord Chaitanya has appeared in Navadvip. He has the shoulders of a lion, the powers of a lion, and the loud voice of a lion. So this is a description of Lord Chaitanya, how he appeared in this Kali Yuga. And then Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, he prays, may that lion be seated in the core of the heart of every living being. Thus, with his resounding roar, may he drive away one's elephantine vices. In his early pastime, he is known as Vishambara because he floods the world with the nectar of devotion and thus saves the living beings. And now it is explained what his name actually means. The verbal root dubrin which is the root of the word Vishvambar, indicates nourishing and maintaining. So Lord Chaitanya nourishes and maintains the three worlds by distributing the love of God. So that is his role in Kali Yuga. So usually it is said how Lord Krishna, through his plenary portions and through his guna avatars, which are Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, he maintains the material world and creates and annihilates. So he controls the material world. But Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he nourishes and maintains these three worlds, material worlds, by distributing the love of God. That's how they are nourished. In his later pastimes, he's known as Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya. He blesses the whole world by teaching about the name and fame of Lord Krishna. So if someone wants to know in this purport, Srila Prabhupada explains how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas and how actually in Bhakti Yoga, sannyas has its origin. It's not something that just came from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur when he established the sannyasa order. I mean, newly established the sannyasa order in the teachings of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So here it is explained how there are roots in the disciplic succession which actually show that sannyasa was existing in Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya even before. And also it is explained why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyasa from Shankaracharya Sampradaya. But I'm not going to go into that. It's another topic. So knowing him, Lord Chaitanya, to be the incarnation for Kali Yuga, Garga Muni, during the naming ceremony of Krishna, predicted his appearance. So what is described here is that even when Lord Krishna appeared in the material world 5,000 years ago, he had a name-giving ceremony and he was given blessings by the family priest who is called Garga Muni, and he was doing his astrology chart. And when he was speaking about the characteristics and qualities of Lord Krishna, he also mentioned that he will appear as Lord Chaitanya in the Kali Yuga. So this also indicates how Lord Chaitanya is actually Lord Krishna himself. So this is what Garga Muni is saying. So this boy Krishna has three other colors, white, red, and yellow, and he appears in different ages. Now he has appeared in the transcendental blackish color. So this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. White, red, and yellow. These are the three bodily lusters of the Lord, the husband of goddesses of fortune, which he assumes in Satreta and Kali respectively. Then he, like Garga Muni, announces what will be the color of the Lord in the age of Kali. Now in the Dvapara Yuga, the Lord has descended in blackish hue. This is the essence of the statements in the Puranas and other Vedic literatures with reference to the context. In the Dvapara Yuga, the personality of Godhead appears in a black dress in yellow. He holds his own weapons. He is decorated with Kastuva jewel and marks of Srivatsa. This is how his symptoms are described. So this is just a description of how Lord Krishna appears in Dvapara Yuga, so 5,000 years ago. And then it is said that the religious practice of the age of Kali is to broadcast the glories of the holy name. Only for this purpose has the Lord in yellow descended as Lord Chaitanya. The luster of his expansive body resembles molten gold. The deep sound of his voice conquers the thundering of a newly assembled cloud. So just to make it short, these verses are actually describing the bodily features of the Lord. So his luster, so the way that his skin looks, is like molten gold. His body is enormous, and this enormous body is called prakanda. And it is said that these kind of bodies, they measure 4 cubits. And then I went to research and I found that 1 cubit is actually 53.34 centimeters, which means that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was more than 2 meters tall. And when he would spread his arms like this, the length would also be 2 meters. So he was quite huge. Yeah, and his arms were so long that they extended to his knees. His voice was deeper than the thundering of the newly assembled clouds. His eyes were like lotus flowers. His nose was like a sesame flower, which is actually, and then I went to search on the internet, which is actually a flower that has a nose. So you can also Google it to see how a sesame flower looks like. And when you see that flower, you will know how the nose of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu looks like. His face was beautiful as the moon, and he had beautiful decorations on his body. He was anointed with sandalwood pulp, decorated with sandalwood bangles and armlets to dance in Krishna Sankirtan. So it's quite nice. So he had so the bracelets, armlets, and on his knee, on his legs also were made from sandalwood. And then when he would dance, they would like go and so on. And then the qualities of Lord Chaitanya are also described. He was Shanta, peaceful, Danta, self-controlled, Krishna Bhakti Nishta Prayana, fully devoted to the service of Krishna. He was Bhakta, I mean, he is Bhakta Vatsala. He has affection, he's affectionate towards his devotees. He's Shushila, gentle. He's Sarva Bhakti Sama, equally disposed towards all living entities. And he has 4 names. He appears in 2 ages, which are called Adi Lila and Shesha Lila. And in each age, he has 4 names. So this is what is described in these verses. But we will actually skip a few of them and then conclude and then continue in 2 weeks. Just a second. Okay. So these were the verses in which Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami actually just wanted to explain how come Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world. So it was a desire of Lord Krishna to appear. He wanted to give the world Vraja Bhakti. And so the whole process of his thought was explained in these verses. And what was also established is that no other than Lord Krishna can give Prema Bhakti, Raja Prema Bhakti. So we have to conclude by the evidence of the scriptures which were quoted here that Lord Krishna is actually Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in order to teach, he teaches by taking the role of a devotee and by practicing the religious principles himself. So he shows the principle of an acharya, the one who teaches by example, and he shows how no one can teach anything if he doesn't practice himself. And then it was emphasized that the religious principle that he establishes in this age of Kali is the chanting of the holy name. He comes by the desire of his devotees to deliver the pious or to satisfy the pious, in this case, Advaita Acharya, which we will explain in 2 weeks. And he also comes to deliver to annihilate the miscreants, which in this age means the demonic propensities people carry in their hearts. And his weapons in this age are not like swords or arrows, but his associates, whether they are his expansions as Vishnu Tattvas or his devotees as Jivas. So he sends them all over the world to propagate the chanting of the holy name and to make the world dance in ecstasy. So this would be a real conclusion. So we stopped actually at half of the chapter and we will continue in 2 weeks. I will now check if there are any comments or questions. Just a second. Okay, there are no comments and questions. Oh, but Harikata has a comment and question. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
You can say something about the reason why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually wanted to experience how it is to be his own devotee. I know it's maybe beyond the scope of what you spoke today.
Yeah. So Harikata wants to know, like, what is the reason why he wanted to be his own devotee? But I'm not going to answer that question because this question will be answered in chapter 4 of Chaitanya Charitamrita, because now we are talking about like what are the external reasons why he appeared. And these external reasons are mentioned actually in the Bhagavad Gita, where we said that Lord appears millennium after millennium to save the pious, to annihilate the miscreants, and to establish the principles of religion. So this is always an external reason, but internal reason will be explained then in chapter 4, which is actually entitled Internal Reasons for Appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So yeah. Do you have another question? Okay, so thank you very much for your attention. I will now stop with the lecture, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. And it's always like, if you have any questions, you can always write to me. And yeah, that's it. Stop share. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.